Skinflick, a Dave Brandstetter mystery, Book 5. Author, Joseph Hansen. Publisher, Open Road Integrated Media. Narrator, Eric Aust. In memory of Dr. Dreadful, who left too soon. Chapter 7. Cinzano was stenciled large on the red and blue umbrellas over the tables in front of the strip joint. At the tables, youngsters in bikinis and surfer trunks, ragged straw hats, and armless shirts breathed the exhaust fumes of the close-packed, homebound traffic on the street and washed down avocado burgers with Cokes, 7-Ups, Perrier water. Scuba diving goggles set in black rubber rested on top of the long, wet, golden hair of a suntanned youth. Edging between the crowded tables, Dave stumbled over swim fins. There was the cocoa butter smell of Skoal. Inside this smell was of bourbon and smoke, not all of it tobacco smoke. The lights, if there were any, hadn't been turned on. If you wanted to see, you saw by what filtered in from the dying day outside through bamboo-blinded plate glass. The crowd in here appeared older, and Peter Frampton wasn't blaring from loudspeakers as he was outside. Dave sat on a bamboo stool beside a plump, chattering man in a checked linen jacket and told a vague shape in skin-tight coveralls behind the bar that he wanted a gin and tonic. In the gloom at the room's end, a pair of angular lads in black, not very crisp shirts and jeans was puttering with microphones, amplifiers, speakers on a small platform. Feedback screamed. Everyone looked at the corner. The feedback stopped. The bartender set the gin and tonic in front of Dave, but didn't go away. He stood, leaning with his hands on the bar. "You want something else?" What more could I possibly want?" "It's always something," the bartender said. "What is this time? Who's supposed to be dealing in here now? Who's supposed to be snorting in the men's room?" "I'm not a cop," Dave told him. "You're something like that," the bartender said. He had a drooping corn-color mustache, and his hair was going thin, but his skin had a youthful sheen to it, and his eyes were clear and healthy. They blinked speculatively. "Maybe you're a programmer? Except I can't smell greed on you. You can't be a private eye. They don't have those anymore. And when they had them, they didn't look like you." "Insurance," Dave said. "Have you seen a thin girl child named Charlene? A blonde, about 5'4", no breasts to speak of, no hips to speak of. Maybe in company with a small, dark, intense church deacon type in his 40s. "The kids can't come inside during the day," the bartender said. "And that's when I worked, so I wouldn't see a kid." He looked past Dave. He called, "Press." The young woman who came wore the same sort of baby blue bib coveralls as the bartender, except the legs of hers were cut very short and with little splits at the sides. She had loose poodle hair like the secretary at Superstar Rentals. Her smile was bright, brisk, professional. The bartender asked her about Charlene. "She came here," Dave said. "She had swizzle sticks with the name of this place on them." "Oh, honey." The girl laid a hand with open fingers on her forehead. "They come by the grows. Is that all you've got? Haven't you got a picture?" "They were an odd couple," Dave said. He described Dawson again. "What's odd?" Priss wagged her head with a wan smile. "Sweetheart, a girl could come here with a two-toed sloth and nobody would notice." The kids do come in here at night, right?" Dave said to the bartender. "You've got a band, not for us tone-deaf old drunks, surely. So they must dance? No?" "That wall slides back on the other side. Soft drinks only. 8:30. Also, junk food. Okay?" "That's all," Priss wondered. Dave lifted his glass to her. "Remember me to the two-toed sloths." She went away. So did the bartender. Dave worked his way through clusters of balding men, talking talent, talking albums, talking contracts to the little platform. One of the angler youths had gone off. The other one sat at the keyboard, fiddling with switches, playing runs. Dave stepped up onto the platform. Drumsticks lay crossed on a snare. He picked one up and tapped a cymbal. The youth at the keyboard turned to him, flinching. "Mustn't touch," he said. Dave put the stick down carefully and told him about Charlene and Gerald Dawson. "He's a bad dancer," the skinny youth said. "The worst she ever brought. But she only brought the other ones once." They liked it. He hated it. It figured she'd bring him back over and over. Sensitive to others, was she? Dave said. He was a jerk. He deserved it. What did he need with her? She was like a 10-year-old. No boobs. No nothing. But he fell all over himself. She could make him do anything, and she wasn't even smart. You sound like you knew her, Dave said. His hair was black and lank, lusterless, uncombed. It went inside the greasy collar of his shirt. When he shook his head, he ran long, knuckly fingers under it to free it. You sit up here and run through the same sets nights after night. It gets mechanical and boring, he said. So I watch, you know? What you see isn't Aldrich or Coppola or Scorsese, and it's only clips, but I make up the rest of the script. She's this Turkey Ranch hick, right? And she runs away from Gobbler Gulch to the bright lights, and the town preacher comes to fetch her, and it's Sadie Thompson all over again. You know, that old Joan Crawford flick. That was John Huston's father. And that, did you know, John Huston is old as God himself. That was a long time ago, man. You made this up, Dave said, but you never talked to her. Did I say that? The knuckly fingers played a phrase from The Maid with the Flaxen Hair. The electronic sounds came out tinkling silvery. I talked to her. She was a talker. Anybody she could grab. She was going to get into films. She was peddling her scrawny little ass up and down the strip all night. And the Johns she got all told her the same thing. They were agents, directors, producers. They'd got her into films, and she believed them. They told her she had beautiful facial planes, all right. Woodwinds faked themselves inside the circuitry. What came from under his fingers sounded tender, yearning. It contradicted the sourness of his words. What did you tell her? Dave asked. That you could get her a recording contract? My sheets needed changing, he said. My decor is piles of dirty laundry. She liked my cock very much, but I don't think my lifestyle convinced her I had the clout to help her with her career. He snapped off a little what the hell laugh, but the music kept on sounding sentimental. Dawson wasn't an agent, a director, a producer, Dave said. He couldn't get her into pictures. I don't know. The shoulders went up and down without affecting the smooth work the fingers were doing. He sure as hell didn't look it. Him? I'd have figured to be paying the rent or something, you know? But about the time I saw him with her first, a little before, she said she'd made it. She had a part, a big part. She was going to be a movie star. She'd even met the producer. Did she name him? Dave said. How could she name him? Somebody drives a new Seville along here, waving an open door at the girls on the sidewalk. He's going to give his real name? The Debussy piece came to an end. He looked at Dave. Who are you, and what do you want with her? You said the man would do anything for her, Dave told him. I think he died for her. He died, that's for sure. If I can find her, maybe she can tell me why. She hasn't been around, the musician said. For how long? Dave said. He named the date of Gerald Dawson's death. Would that be the last time? You think she's dead? His skin never saw sunlight. The darkness of his hair and mustache, the intensity of the little light glaring off the sheet music on the instrument, reflecting into his face, made it look like ivory. Now it turned to chalk. Christ, she was only 16. Is the date right? Dave said. Yeah. No, I don't know. Who reads calendars all the time? Every night is the same in here. His mouth trembled. He sounded as if he were going to cry. Jesus, I guess that's right. 10 days ago, right? Yeah, it must have been about that long. She hasn't been back to her apartment, Dave said. Where else would she go? I don't know, man. She slept around, right? For bread. I mean, nobody's ever going to get her into that glass slipper. A pumpkin is always going to be a pumpkin for her. What a dumb, crazy little kid. Do you write your own lyrics? Dave said. He grinned wanly. That's a quote from some flick. But the time under his fingers now was pavane for a dead princess. The Celesta sound giving it a toy shop aptness. Who knows? You could check who suddenly signed $1 million contracts and moved into Beverly Hills mansions. $1 million contracts I don't think she'd get, Dave said. Did you ever hear of a producer called Odom? Spence Odom. Nah, they keep making those pictures about that Little League baseball team. The Bad News Bears. She could be in the next one. The Bad News Bears meet the Dirty Old Man. She didn't tell you this producer who signed her was named Spence Odom? She didn't give me the name, he said. She stuck out her tongue when I asked her. She flounced away, right? Grammar school stuff. Ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies. He made his voice simpering. His hand flipped switches. Ravel mourned. Then stopped. The cover came down over the keyboards. I've got to eat. Dave gave him a card. If you remember anything about her that you haven't told me, call me, will you? The card went into his shirt pocket, where there was ballpoint pens and cigarettes. The skeletal thighs slid off the high bench. Later, he said, and dropped off the platform and wove in and out through the knots of talkers, and after a pause to put on dark glasses out into what was left of the daylight, Dave set down his unfinished drink and followed. Eating still went on. So did Peter Frampton. The temperature had cooled, and shirts had come from nowhere to cover the suntan oiled shoulders. Pris came at him, empty tray at her side. Charlene Sims, she said. A big dumb kid was here with a picture. Scrawny little blonde in a high school yearbook from some tacky little town in the boonies. Showing her picture to everybody. Had anybody seen Charlene? I forgot before. Now's a good time, Dave said. What did this big dumb kid look like? Did he have a name? What was the name on the yearbook? What tacky little town in the boonies? You know what you could take him for, she asked. A two-toed sloth, Dave said. Bigfoot, she said. The monster that's supposed to run the woods in Oregon or Washington or someplace. You've seen those fake movies, haven't you? Bad, grainy 8mm shots of some naked guy with a lot of hair and beard tromping through the underbrush. They don't have sound, but you can hear the grunts. He didn't grunt his name for you. He was very paranoid. No names. She clasped the empty tray to her chest with crossed arms. He hung onto that book like this. Wouldn't let anybody see the cover, only her picture. He didn't want questions, just answers. Where was she? A week later, he was back. It was sad. He'd lost the book. It figured Charlene was dumb, but she'd wised up a little here. He was childish. Naturally, somebody ripped him off. He was lucky they left him his undershorts. He cried about the book, really cried, like a little kid. It was the only picture of Charlene he owned. She looked past Dave, frowned, and nodded. I've got to pick up an order. Look, I'm sorry I forgot before. One more second, Dave said. Have you seen him lately? Bigfoot. No, it's been, 2 weeks. He was frantic about the book, though. He might have left it here. He hadn't. She tried to go inside. Dave stepped between her and the door. You never saw her with him. He didn't find her. There are 9 million people in this town now. How could he find her? He was lost himself. She tried to edge around him. Look, I have to. What about Spence Odom? Did you see her with him? What's a Spence Odom? A movie producer. You get film people in here. Did he tell you he was a producer? She said. They lie a lot, you know. A poster told me, Dave said. In Charlene's apartment, over her bed. He makes the kind of movies she might just look into. I don't get told people's names much. A shout came from the dusky sunset room. Sorry, I've got to go, she said, and this time he lit her. Kids with soft drink cans sat on the hood and trunk of the Triumph, where he'd left it halfway up the hill. Skateboarders curvetted past him. He didn't speak to the kids when he stopped and took out the keys. They got off the car. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.